And for the first time since the final round of last season, it's an all Holden Racing Team front row. Mark Scaife, and there's Todd Kelly. Check out the Fuso start grid. And Todd Kelly is the first repeat offender on pole for 2007. He has started on the front row here before, but never won a race. Rick Kelly, you'll find in position 3, his best qualifying by a long way at this circuit. Row 3 belongs to Stephen Richards, the Castrol FPR Falcon, and Garth Tander. That's the first time since round 7 last year that Garth has started outside the top 5. He has been on some kind of roll. James Courtney will start from position 9 in his first ever V8 supercar race here at Eastern Creek.
And a man just outside the top 10. A little bit of a surprise in many respects, Mark Winterbottom. Both he and Stephen Richards reporting oversteer with the FPR Fords. That's the back of the car sliding around a little bit too much. In Mark's case, he had way too much of it. He was also battling with a brake issue in qualifying with the pedal travelling too far.
Positions 17 and 18 belong to Dean Canto and Jack Perkins in Jack Daniels Racing.
And interesting, you know, you look at that performance, consider yesterday's conditions, Matty, it was absolutely shocking out here. Jack's never raced here in any kind of a motor vehicle, so when we saw him out there before in qualifying, that was his first real hit out in dry conditions. He's 18th in 30, not a bad effort.
You would have seen the 2 super cheap auto cars of Cameron McConville and Paul Dumbrell starting side by side in 19 and 20. Dumbrell has now started 3 times from position 20, so he's living up to the number on his door. Just lucky he's not in car 31. Shane Price will begin in position 27, John Bowe in 28th, and the final row of the grid belongs to Andrew Jones, Team BOC, and the Irwin Racing entry of Alan Gurr. So 30 starters for this race, the first race of round 5, and can you believe it, the sun has come out here at Sydney.
Jason Richards in the Tasman Motorsport entry also reporting a leaky rear hub in qualifying, and like James Courtney, that team used all 3 tyre sets in the first 2 periods of qualifying. It left them without a little firepower in that 3rd and final session, and that's why he didn't quite have the grip to get the job done, but should be more effective in the race, and that's an exact mirror comment for the Geraldwin entry of James Courtney. 31 laps the duration, the same for all 3 races, or a time certain finish of 2:55 p.m. local Eastern Standard Time. Compulsory pit stop window opens on lap 5, and only 1 observation lap as the cars came out onto the circuit before as well. That's a little loophole that's been closed since the previous round, where drivers have been able to transit the lane to warm up their tyre sets. And onboard cameras for this race today include Garth Tander, Mark Winterbottom, this man here, Will Davison, Mark Scaife, James Courtney, Cam McConville. We've got it covered from all the angles.
Certainly do, Neil. We were just having a look before at Mark Winterbottom. Struggling before in qualifying. For fans of him, he's outside the 10. He's now copied the race setup of Stephen Richards, his teammate, who's much further up the order. Garth Tander struggled for balance. That's why he's dropped down to 6, but quite upbeat in this session. The boys at Dunlop have just told me, well, practice 15 degrees, qualifying 19 degrees. Track temperature now a whopping 26.
Speaking of temperature, the boys at Fujitsu, Jason Bright, very confident. 7th on the grid, and they feel that there's more in that car. In fact, they haven't touched it since Winton, but Jason Bright pretty confident. In qualifying, just lost a little bit coming into the main straight. Otherwise, he thinks he would have been further up towards the pointy end.
All right, thank you, boys. Mark Beretta and Daniel Gibson keeping us updated in pit lane throughout the race. The WPS in-car camera will focus on James Courtney. And here is Garth Tander with the big pond camera inside car 16.
Thinking of WPS makes me think of Craig Gore, makes me think of Marcus Ambrose, who qualified 5th this morning for the Bush NASCAR race at Nashville, and also Team Australia's Will Power 7th on the grid for the qualifying the Champ Car race at Portland on the west coast of America. He was 4th fastest in the wet session, but obviously the times were drier in the previous session where the track condition was better.
Remember, no burnout that last corner.
Our best over to Marcus Ambrose, who had some great rides here in his V8 supercar career. 4 pole positions, equal with Mark Scaife, 3 round victories, the last of which was an all-the-way win in 2004.
curious thing about this motor race is going to be tyre condition and the way the balance of the cars influences the use of the tyres. They've had no running on the previous practice day to really get any idea of trend, and it's been 2 years since they've been here. A lot's changed in that time. VE Commodore has come along. Drivers and teams have learnt more about the behaviour of their cars, and therefore they've changed their settings a lot since they were last here. So they're kind of pioneers in this situation at the moment. Wet, dry conditions yesterday, much quicker lap times in qualifying than yesterday, and now they face this extended race, not exactly sure of where they're heading.
See the two Dayglow HRT cars pulling up alongside each other. Any rules?
There needs to be some compared to when they were last here, because they managed to bang heads a couple of years ago, and that has been discussed in the garage, and I believe it won't happen again. First time for them on the front row of the grid since the grand finale last year at Phillip Island. Rules dictate now that there can be no burnouts from the final corner down to the starting grid.
Party poopers. So Todd Kelly, he started at pole for our last round at Winton. Now he finds himself alongside his team boss. Look at that Delwyn Motorsport Falcon starting to rattle and roll. Eastern Creek is back on the calendar, and Todd Kelly gets a good start. But Mark Scape goes sailing by on the outside and will take it cleanly into turn one. And that good start from Kelly has turned into a third position by the end of turn one as Whincup made a move.
Rocket start for Jamie Whincup. Good performance there. I think Todd might have missed the change from first to second. It was a great jump, and then all of a sudden went nowhere. So he either bogged it down, maybe a little clutch slip, or could have just missed the shift to second.
Up over the rise. So a change in the top three. Little lock up there from Courtney. 3-4 wide.
Scope's got a little fresh air gap at turn 7. Whincup tucks in behind. Dumbrell positioned up the inside. A lot of constant radius corners in the middle complex of this racetrack. Makes it hard to do much about anybody other than follow, but there is a passing opportunity here at 9. Most of them have got it covered. Down the inside they run. Nose to tail contact there, back in the pack. 3 and 4 wide at one point on the braking approach to 9. Scape with a margin over Whincup, then Kelly recovering.
Bit touchy-feely mid-pack. Look at Winterbottom there. Very aggressive.
Great job, mate.
Pretty good start by James Courtney. I think he's picked up a couple of positions. Scape goes through in first. Then Whincup, Todd Kelly, Rick Kelly. Stephen Richards, Garth Tander, James Courtney. That's him in position 7. Behind him is Jason Richards. Jason Bright and Jason Barkwana has come up from 12th to 10th.
Lowndes having a peep here, tucked in behind Mark Winterbottom in the FPR Ford. 39.4 for Mark Scape as the standing lap time, and he had nearly 1 second over Jamie Whincup as they crossed the control line at the end of that first lap. Lowndes in turn being pressured by Russell Ingall. Todd Kelly's done the fastest split in the first sector on this first flying lap. On board now with Winterbottom. This is the run down to turns 6 and 7. Tucked in behind Will Davison, now looking rearward from the Jim Beam entry. Just grabbing 4th gear, approaching turn 8, Corporate Hill. Look at that big bump that I've spoken about before, and Winterbottom illustrated really well then. He just used a bit of the ripple strip, and you could see the car porpoise in the nose. Fastest split to the second sector for Mark Scape.
Craig Lowndes there at the back of that little pack we were focusing on of Winterbottom and Davison. Lowndes has moved up 3 positions from his start. Mark Scape motoring around.
That smoke that you saw was tyre smoke. That's the inner guard and the right rear making contact with the tyres. Not a problem with the car, but they're running the back of that car very low. Scaife extends the margin out to 1.5 seconds. He did a 1:33.3 on that lap.
The 2006 champion, overall champion Rick Kelly, showing good pace throughout the first sector. He's third.
Courtney moving up to 7th, so he's got a little bit of free air there at the moment, and if he continues to make the good pace he is at the moment, he'll come onto the back of Garth Tander shortly. That's Tander we're looking at there. He in turn's following Stephen Richards. A little battle developing here with these guys. Remember, I reported earlier that Richards has been battling an oversteer issue with this car in qualifying. They made some small adjustments going into the race. Now tyre temperatures and pressures are normalising. Drivers are beginning to feel where their car is trending. They could be making small adjustments on the anti-roll bars inside the cabin.
Tander trying to put the pressure
Patience, mate. Todd's starting to struggle a bit. Patience.
on Stephen Richards, and that was going to be my point. Both of these guys are trying to round up Todd Kelly.
Matthew Nilsson, Garth's engineer, knows how important it is to counsel the driver to not make rash moves. The championship has been won in the last couple of years by just plugging away with good, solid top 5, top 6 results. We saw evidence there also of the Todd Kelly car making a lot of right rear guard contact with the tyre, a little plume of smoke. We might have a look at that a little bit later on. Paul Dumbrell comes into the garage with an issue, the super cheap Commodore. Not often that they actually park them unless there's a fairly significant problem. Scaife's got a margin now of 2.2 seconds, so continues to skip away, and even on this lap to the second sector, he makes another 0.6 of a second on Jamie Whincup. So Whincup with no response at the moment, and Rick Kelly just starting to make a little bit of ground, and the toll car is also having a fair old go.
Good job, mate. Good job. Likely pit 15.
And that was Rick Pender talking then, should I say, Eric Pender talking to Rick Kelly, and the message was the likely pit would be lap 15.
Well, disappointing news for Paul Dumbrell. Not the thing you need in race 1. The car is dropping oil pressure. They're concerned about it. They're going to rest it for now. They're going to swap an engine overnight, but Paul Dumbrell's race 1 is over.
Once the cars are taken to the garage, you know pretty much a terminal issue. More people are allowed to work on them inside the garage, but it coasted in there, so we knew there was a drama. Look at this battle here as Garth Tander really applying pressure now to Stephen Richards, turns 10 and 11. He's got the headlights on, starting to work hard at the back of him, and Courtney, as we talked about earlier, with the benefit of clear air while these two are fumbling each other, has closed the margin.
Clear air, JT, give me a read on tyre pressures when you can.
2.8 seconds, Scaife to Whincup now extends further to 3.2. Last lap for Scaife at 34 even, 34.4 for Jamie Whincup. Matty Nilsson asking, I need to know whether you want any variation for the incoming tyre set after we take our compulsory pit stop. So does he want to go a pound up or down, or half a pound, whatever the case may be? So when he's got a free moment, he'll think about that and radio back the answer.
It's so noticeable how the ride height of Scaife's car has been over the course of 2007, just how low it is.
You're seeing a lot of smoke when he transits the loaded part, the heavily loaded part of turn 1. Saw a little bit from the back of Todd's car as well. Courtney here at the moment is 7th. He's almost in tune with this battle between Stevie Richards and Garth Tander. Remember, he's not raced on this track, basically describing himself as a local. His mum and dad just live a little further west of here, and a lot of motor racing all around the world, but not on this racetrack. So, like Jack Perkins, a bit of a new adventure for him at the moment.
He did do a ride day here with SBR in 2005. That's as close as he got. He's in a different ball game now, and he knows it. You're on board with Garth Tander. who's having a right old scrap with Stephen Richards for positions 5 and 6.
Craig Lowndes is going to pit this lap. You can see a little bit of that telltale smoke there from Rick Kelly's car. Stevie Richards and James Courtney in, and Richo pinches tyres on the way in. In fact, he'd be lucky to have pulled up at the 40k line there, and that was Garth Tander confirming the pressures are okay, so he doesn't want any variation for that tyre set that are inbound to the car.
Control light.
8 cars have just pulled into pit lane. It was anchors away for this man, Stephen Richards. And here's Courtney into the Stone Brothers Racing Garage.
All right, mate. Wait. Go. Clear, go.
Richo had to wait for Courtney. That's a net gain for the Geraldine entry.
Quick, super quick. They were practicing late last night. It was cold, dark and damp here. Stone Brothers Racing were practicing, cheering each other on, egging each other on. Fabian Coulthard in and out. So James Courtney has grabbed one position ahead of Stephen Richards.
Scaife continues to lead with a 3.87 second margin over Jamie Whincup, and that's just trickling away at a rate of about 3/10 a lap now. Initially it was a bit bigger than that. It started to just calm down. Scaife, Whincup, both the Kellys, Garth Tander, they've all stayed out. Jason Richards has stayed out and moved up. That smoke we talked about there as the right rear just bumps onto the tyre. And we're expecting Rick Kelly in. I believe he's peeled off, coming for his compulsory stop, and so have a bunch of other cars, including Todd Kelly. I think that's Jason Richards, certainly Mark Winterbottom.
Max Wilson looks like.
Whincup's done the fastest split to the end of the first sector.
Go.
Beautiful stop. 4.3 seconds, Scaife to Whincup. He continues to ease away. That's a reversal of position, Rick Kelly on Todd. Very, very fancy work from the Toll HSV dealer team.
There are pluses and minuses of being the championship in the championship garage. They're right down there at the end of pit lane. Do you see how hard it was for Rick Kelly to manoeuvre inside the witch's hat there and then join the pit lane exit? Regardless, great teamwork.
Tander stayed out for the moment. He's moved to third. Bargwana. WPS have been doing a good job this weekend. Jason is fourth. Will Davison fifth. Russell Ingall. Bit of oversteer there for Rick Kelly as we now focus on the race leader, Mark Scaife, looking at that car from behind. I tell you what, it really is having a rub on that tyre, isn't it? 4.33 seconds is the margin.
So the Toll team did a beauty for Rick Kelly. Team Vodafone do a good one for Jamie Whincup.
Go.
And Toll back it up with another one for Garth Tander. Inches inside the witches.
Yo, mate, watch for traffic.
Oh,
Boy.
excellent shot of Whincup, just crossed up on the exit there. Tander slots in behind Todd Kelly and James Courtney behind them.
The Xbox 360 leaderboard shows you that Mark Scaife leads this race, but he's yet to pit. Jamie Whincup. Russell Ingall's also up there as well. Some of these guys have, some of them haven't. cameraman pretty easy there, even at 40 k's in pit lane. When does he rejoin?
Came in with plenty of margin.
The rest of the gang is going to come flying down to turn 1 there. So Whincup slots into second position. Scaife comes out with a nice buffer as well.
Neil, we saw Stephen Richards come into the pit lane before and he pitched that brake. We thought he might have just gone over the limit. Just check with the officials, all's fine.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I was a little bit worried, given the pace that he arrived at that control line. Certainly would have given that tyre a little bit of a hiding. It's a bit of computer confusion here at the moment in terms of the timing, because despite the stop, still showing Scaife with an 8.5 second margin, which can't be factually correct. On board here with James Courtney, let's ride with the Geraldwen pilot as he exits turn number 7, and have a look at the hard work the Dunlop control tyre gets up to on this circuit. Have a look at this. Left rear tyre on the Ford. Amazes me just how much distortion. Look at the pace here. Just on 270 kilometres an hour as he turns in. Downshifts to 5th. It's about 200 odd k's across the face of the corner, and then another huge break from about the 100 metre mark down to second gear for turn 2. Double apex left-hander. Unlike some drivers, James hanging on to 3rd there through turn 3, then 4th. You actually jump across the top of the hump there on the approach to 4. Now, computer timing's been rectified and Scaife's been inserted back into the correct order.
It actually had Russell Ingall further up than what we would have guessed.
Well, boys, good news for Paul Dumbrell and Super Cheap Auto Racing. They have got his car back out onto the track. The engineers have tinkered with the engine and they feel that they may have nailed it, they may have got it right. So he's going to go out there and give it a go and roll the dice and just see how things go.
So you should never say never, should you, in this game? I already had him penciled in for his 5th DNF in the little stats book here, Paul Dumbrell, for the season, but he's back out there. It's great to see him. Now, what's James Courtney up to?
Get easy, you're doing a great job. Just keep it calm, buddy.
I think what happened with James is either by bumping the switch or it's activated itself inadvertently. The pit lane speed limiter came on the car and it temporarily hurt the performance of the car, but he's away again now. Lost a little bit of margin, but he needs to get his head back down now because the car performance is back to normal.
Is that a manual deactivation? Would you have to flick it to get rid of it?
Yes. Stevie Johnson leads the field, 13.3 seconds over Jack Perkins in the 11 car. John Bowers not yet taken his stop, nor has Paul Morris, and then Mark Scaife is the first of the runners to have taken his stop, and so as we suggested, he'll take his spot back at the top of the leaderboard after these leading 4 drivers.
He's got some damage to the front there.
Yeah, that was early on. Remember, we saw the big nose to tail bang on the opening lap. There was a whole bunch of them got together over the back there. We've seen a little bit of bonnet damage for Stevie this year, here and there in the races. There are a couple of them where it's very significant bonnet damage.
Climbed as high as 5th in the championship after the WA round. He currently sits 8th on 103 points. The one that stung for Stephen Johnson was New Zealand, a 17th overall and just 4 points for the weekend.
Interesting angry pack here. We've got Ingall, Winterbottom and Lowndes in dispute for position 14, 15 and 16.
Heard a great interview with Russell Ingall throughout the week on Sydney radio, and he said to the boys, I want to get the enforcing back in here and I want to get in and mix it up, and I don't mind if I have to go and visit the umpires occasionally.
Problem again for James Courtney. So is this a the electronics glitch, or did he just make a blue? That was up at turns 11 and 12. Maybe just ran out of room up there at 11.
The hand gesture said it all. I'm just glad he got both hands back by the time he got to turn 1.
He was on the radio, but I didn't quite catch the message, but he's dropped a big pile of ground.
Lowndes is moving up on Winterbottom. Will Davison will also be in that mix.
So he's bounced over the curb at turn 11. He is also discussing the fact that the pit lane speed limiter is activating itself, so they must have some sort of a fault in the wiring there. Whether that's related to that off, I don't know, but I suspect so. It's a pretty graphic shot of just how hard the right rear works around this racetrack. It's one of the real issues here for keeping the car speed up and keeping a consistent lap time. It's trying to look after that right rear tyre map for about 2 laps around here, while the car's got cool, evenly pressured and balanced tyres. Cars feel pretty good, but typically as the race goes on around here, you either end up with a big pile of understeer because the front right works too hard, or a big pile of oversteer because the right rear works too hard. Looking rearward from Mark Winterbottom's car at turn 2, looking at the front of the Craig Lowndes entry. Here it is from the other view, from up above, and you can see the fringes of the racetrack are really grotty here at the moment because of the amount of rain that we've had in Sydney for the last few days. Massive storms in this particular part of the east coast of Australia. So Winterbottom's just got a bit of a battle on his hands for car balance at the moment because Lowndes is more than nibbling at him. You can see just how difficult it is to pass turns 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's impossible. But if he's in the right spot, he might sneak down the inside at 9, but invariably Winterbottom, as an experienced player, will just take a bit of track space off him down in here. And in fact, he's far enough away that he's not under threat. See, the only couple of spots where you can get down the inside here are 9 and turns 2 and 9. And they're both a similar shaped corner. And it really requires some level of cooperation from the preceding guy. If he just drives down the inside of the road, you can't really nail him.
Manny, we were watching pictures before of James Courtney from Stone Brothers Racing. They do indeed, Neil, have a problem with the pit lane limiter keeps on coming on. They looked at bringing him in and snipping the wire. They've just given him the word, do not let the engine drop below 4,000 RPM. We just need to finish the race in the points.
Thanks, Daniel. He's down in 18th at the moment. And where it's triggering, where it's kicking in at the moment is down in both the hairpins, turns 2 and 9. And the low RPM, it kicks in and then he's got a problem. Whoa! Cam McConville.
Got a face full of the hog's breath. Just to add to his problems. So Craig Lowndes is in 12th.
Stephen Johnson's not yet pitted. It's an 18.7 second margin.
This is Mark Winterbottom's 100th race start in the championship. Just 25 years of age. Actually grew up at Doonside, the other side of the freeway here.
To go, Craig. 16 to go.
And won a development series round here in 2003. So he has a fondness for Eastern Creek, but he's got a handful behind him.
Stephen Johnson has now pitted, so Mark Scaife assumes the lead of the race with Jamie Whincup in second, Rick and Todd Kelly third and fourth, then Garth Tander, Stevie Richards, Jason Bright, Jason Richards and Russell Ingall.
Guys, if you've been keeping a close eye on Rick Kelly's car, you might have noticed a bit of smoke coming out the back now. The team says that Rick hasn't reported a problem. They're going to push on.
Sorry, Mark, we just got James Courtney continuing to struggle, and this
Bring it
time...
in, please, James. Bring it in, please, mate.
He struggled all the way off to the grass, and they've decided to throw their hands up. Jimmy Stone and SBR just can't work this one out. But clearly it's not going to go away, that problem. So the Zinger replay will answer the question for us.
Looks like a bit of mud. It's a bit of mud coming out from under the car, because remember it's been off the road. So they've got some sort of electronic drama, so it seems. Stone Brothers Racing celebrating 10 years on track. Ah, here we go. Big lock-up. Now, I wonder whether the throttle's jamming or something down there as well. So he may well have had a chunk of rubber coming off. Either way, rubber, dirt,
it's just about
electronic glitches,
everything else.
All of it's pretty ugly.
That's the end result. So a front flat right, flat front right. Try saying that twice.
And now it's punctured. Just to add insult.
Just take it easy there, mate. Just take it easy.
So you got that?
Barry Hayes now crew chief at Stone Brothers Racing. Paul Forgey's gone to the US to continue his working relationship with Marcus Ambrose.
So Barry now oversees both the SBR cars of James and Russell Ingall.
Mark Skate's got a 3.4 second margin over Jamie Whincup. And to the second sector on this very lap, Mark was able to make another 0.4 of a second on Whincup.
Great job, mate. Have a breathe.
That was Whincup in
Think
the
about your
background.
bars and your bars.
Just going back to that little glimpse of a remark that we got from Mark Beretta before about there was some kind of an issue with Rick Kelly's car. In yesterday's practice session, they had a leaky rear hub seal on the car. It took it off the track for about 15 or 20 minutes while they sorted it out. I wonder whether they have a problem related to that.
Just make sure the tap is down, please. Make sure the tap is down. Switch it off there, please, James. Mate, switch it off.
Did a pretty tidy job bringing that in there on 3. Stopped it right in position. This has been the position that Mark Skaife has owned since turn 1 of this race. And the benefits that he's got clear air in front and behind by some distance. 4 seconds is his nearest rival, who's Jamie Whincup in second. Turned 40 in April. Been around this game a long, long time.
This will come as a little bit of sugar, a reward, because I don't think you could have got to a lower point at Winton at the previous round, and by his yeah, that's definitely an abnormal amount of smoke out of the right rear. I'm pretty confident in saying that's something related to the problem that they had yesterday.
Job, mate. Good job. Have a drink. Have a drink.
And Mark said to me earlier in the week that he felt that it was his career low point, the Winton round. So this will be an important bounce back for him to look at that smoke emanating from the right rear of the car. And it actually looks a little bit weird in the right rear as well. It's just geometry-wise, there's something strange in the rear of the car.
Neil, it'll be interesting to watch what happens with the SBR car. James Courtney's been in, as we saw, on 3 wheels, but what they've done in terms of wheels, they've just changed his steering wheel. They believe the pit lane gremlin may well be in there.
So Jamie Whincup has a 3.9 second deficit to catch up on the race leader Mark Skaife. Paul Dumbrell has been in and out of this garage a couple of times in this race. More than likely guess that that's the last time before race 2. an opposite round of fortunes to the man that he's chasing. Jamie Whincup turned a 20th qualifying position at Winton into a race 1 victory and an overall round victory. As we already documented, poor old Mark Scaife just went from bad to worse.
4.1 seconds is the margin, Scaife to Whincup. And James Courtney has been instructed to bring the car back into the pit garage. So whatever the dramas are, they're temporarily going to bring that car off the track and try and sort them.
With 11 laps to go in this race, Mark Scaife is our race leader, and he is pulling away from Jamie Whincup. The gap now 4.2 seconds.
Matty, that gremlin we reported before has actually been fixed. Look, well outside the points. They just put that new wheel on just as a systems check, done a lap, it's fine. James Courtney, however, not a happy lap.
He's Whincup in second at the moment. He's holding station with Mark Scaife, but it's a pretty static gap now at about 4.2 seconds. And then it's a second odd back to both the Kellys. There they are, with this little smoke issue still plaguing this car. You're seeing evidence of it here and there, and then a bit of a gap back to Stephen Richards. Jason Wright, there it is again on the left-hander. And the suggestion is that it's a leaky hub seal, probably a recurrence of the problem that they had yesterday. Todd's not been able to do much about his brother. They came out with that kind of proximity after the compulsory stops, and it's pretty much stayed that way. The fastest guy to the end of the first sector split on this particular lap by a tiny margin is actually Jamie Whincup now. They've traditionally shown pretty good tyre life. Care of the tyres with the Vodafone cars has been really one of their strong points this season, but he's got a long way to go to be able to make that margin to Mark Scaife. Puffing Billy, the Toll HSV car. Again, just a big smoke trail out of that car on the left-hand.
10 to go, mate. 1.5 seconds to Todd. Got a good job.
Stephen Richards here is
Kelly
sixth.
up ahead, got a leaking pit. So just keep an eye out for oil, but it seems okay at the moment.
And then Jason Bright is next, and Jason Richards. So they've just swapped spots, Ingle and Richards. This is a great performance from Jason Bright. You know, this is still the car, the shell that they're leasing from Brad Jones Racing. Remember, they had a very unusual incident in practice in Western Australia, Jason Richards and Jason Bright getting together. The damage was such to the Brightech car that they had to borrow in a commercial arrangement with Brad Jones Racing this vehicle, and they put some of their running gear into it. And we've seen some great performances so far from the Fujitsu entry, and been a couple of weird things happen to them in the last few rounds, but Jason's been really competitive, and it looks as though they're going to be able to punch above their weight for the remainder of the season now. Here's a bit of a look at the next pack. Behind Bright in 8th, it's Russell Ingle, then Jason Richards, then Mark Winterbottom. Craig Lowndes, Stephen Johnson, Will Davis and the Jim Beam cars are locked together. So it sometimes happens a little bit at Eastern Creek where the cars just find themselves all following each other. They've settled into their rhythm and routine. No one's got the firepower to do much about the other. It'll get really interesting towards the end of race number 3 tomorrow, when they've just got these 3 tyre sets to manage across qualifying in the 3 races as to what their tyre condition would be. So as we watch these guys coming onto the main straight, Scaife is in the braking area for turn number 2.
There's Steve Owen and Lee Holdsworth. A little bit of push and shove, bit of argy-bargy.
Remember,
3 wide, this is going to end in tears.
Very difficult to go 3 wide up into turn 11. And around goes Lee Holdsworth. Steve Owen in the mix with Max Wilson.
Look at Max Wilson go, what are you guys doing? Get out of my way.
Gary Rogers will be tearing his hair out. His guys spent a massive amount of time since Winton repairing that car, had 14 men on the job.
And money.
$200,000 worth of damage to both their cars over the last couple of race meetings. So he'll have been holding his breath as he was watching 3 cars try and negotiate a spot where only one fits.
It's good to have Lee Holdsworth back in the driver's seat. He was pretty crook after that crash at Winton, some dizzy spells.
You see the back of Jason Richards' car was starting to slide around a fair bit there. He's been complaining of a car that has turn-in oversteer and generally an oversteer condition around a lot of the tracks that we've been to so far. They've not been really able to cure it.
Ahead.
And we've seen it at a couple of the race meetings this year. Lowndes is now ranging on to the back of Mark Winterbottom and Jason Richards. See again, Jason's car just sliding around. It's not nice. It wouldn't be a comfortable car to drive in that condition.
Little bit of chatter up and down pit lane. A lot of drivers now reporting the track is very, very slippery. The officials now having a close look at the Toll HSV car of Rick Kelly.
Yeah, well, if it's dropping oil, then that'll be the reason for it.
And as predicted, Mark Winterbottom and more than likely Craig Lowndes will start taking pot shots at Jason Richards, who's clearly struggling with the Tasman Motorsport car number 3. Perhaps Lowndes will take a pot shot at Winterbottom first.
Yeah, and this just really illustrates. Safety car is going to be deployed. So the safety car is standing by,
Safety
and
car, mate.
this
Safety
illustrates
car.
just how difficult it is to pass at this racetrack. Why do we have a safety car is the question. I think it's for Fabian Coulthard, who's stopped between turns 3 and 4. And there's also
we can
reports
see who the car is. They've done nothing about it. They're just looking at it. But it's the same for everyone. Just get our head together. Car 2's gone off, I think. Sorry, the leader's car 2. We're just looking for the car.
Campbell a little confused, but I think it's Fabian Coulthard who's stopped, and there he is.
Turn 3, the car.
Probably because of this oil.
And drivers, you
Yeah,
heard
it might
Craig
have
Lowndes.
been him. He came slowly past us and sort of made it halfway around the circuit by himself, but who knows?
Right, so it's pretty much given up the ghost.
A strange place to be parked. So, I mean, Fabian's done the right thing. He's taken the car a long way off the road, and what that does, though, is it re-energises the race, brings them all back together again. That'll be a frustration for Mark Scaife. Good news for Jamie Whincup. Oddly enough, Stephen Richards and Mark Winterbottom, who had big oversteer problems. In the case of Stephen Richards, he's now got a big understeer problem. So whatever they changed on the car to fix that condition has gone too far the other way now. So here's the replay. Look, the car's just basically carked it, and he has pulled off to the left side of the road at turn 3. Frankly surprised that that's triggered the safety car, because he's a long way from where anybody's likely to find him.
Bunched up again. This is mid-pack. Car 34 that just went past then is in 15th position. So all of these guys are currently out of the points. Jack Perkins, Simon Wills, John Bowe, Andrew Jones, Shane Price, Lee Holdsworth and Alan Gurr.
Todd Kelly early in the race leapt over the curbing at turn 11 and has tweaked the steering in that car, which he feels is hindering the progress of the car. The balance is not right. So that's knocked a little bit of the peak speed off car 22. Lights are flashing on the safety car at the moment. When you see those lights go out, we know that there's just one lap to run on the WPS Chrysler safety car, and then we go racing once again with Mark Scaife having lost the benefit of that almost a 5-second lead.
Done some laps in 2007, the WPS Chrysler, hasn't it?
They've had to service it.
Could have been declared the race winner at Winton. Had to come out that many times. is Rick Kelly's car. So he's holding down another top 3 position. Quite extraordinary numbers that he's stacking up.
Yeah, I understand.
Race 1 at Adelaide, he finished 4th, and from then on, he's been top 3 every single race. His partner in crime at Toll HSV, Garth Tander, has been outside the top 3 times or 4 times, but
Lights out, mate. Lights out. Restart. End of this lap.
every other race has been first. No wonder they're 1 and 2 in the championship. That has triggered a safety car. The WPS Chrysler has been out and will now peel off. The lights are off. But what it means is that Mark Scaife, who had been enjoying a 5 or so second lead, now has the rest of the field to contend with. And it's great news for Jamie Whincup. Rick Kelly in 3rd, Todd Kelly in 4th, Garth Tander 5th. This is the Orcon FPR car of Mark Winterbottom, who's in 10th. There's Kelly, who's had issues with the rear right. So down the front straight they come. The Chrysler safety car pulls off and they restart.
It pulled off quite late, kept the field bunched so that there wasn't too much carry on in the pack. Scaife's 5-second lead disappears to a nose-to-tail scenario now going into turn 2. They'll all try and cover down the inside here. Look at Rick Kelly down the inside. Had a look. Hasn't quite got the proximity to do the job.
Little touch from Garth Tander on Todd Kelly. Looking ahead to Jason Richards, who was under severe attack before the safety car.
Steve Owen's going to get a drive-through penalty for infringing in that incident that we saw earlier in the Autobahn entry, so he'll take a drive-through. That was for his role in the incident with Lee Holdsworth. Still looks a bit bleak towards the east, doesn't it? The southeast is where all the weather's been coming from in the last couple of days.
Look at that battle group between Rick Kelly, Todd Kelly, and this man, Garth Tander. Down to the rear of the field, Alan Gurr. The Irwin Tools entry. Stephen Richards goes through in 6th. Max Wilson, the WOW racer, in the middle. He's in 20th.
Todd having to measure himself here. Looks like Rick might just be struggling a little on the restart. He was very close to the back of the number 1 car then, and Todd, you could see, just hesitated. He didn't need to make contact. Eric Pender says 4 to go to Rick so that he can measure his response. And meantime, Garth Tander is lurking there in 5th, looking for a way. The margin, 0.4 of a second between Mark Scaife and Jamie Whincup.
On the restart lap, these guys second-guessed each other. Brotherly instincts. They both went up the inside.
GT was very wide through turn 2 then. He's got Stephen Richards right in behind. The car carried up a long way around the corner. Fortunately, there's a bit of a margin between those two. It's on here with Jason Richards as well.
Oh, they've finally got past him. Mark Winterbottom's finally got past him, and now Craig Lowndes will go around as well. And Stephen Johnson's waiting to pounce. So Winterbottom will take 9th position. Oh, look at that. Johnson can't wait to get a piece of car number 3. But Jason Richards' teammate is now behind Johnson, Greg Murphy. He's covered front and rear. The gap last time around at the front was half a second between Scaife and Whincup. Russell Ingall is having a look at the back of Jason Bright. And Winterbottom, who was stuck behind Jason Richards for quite a few laps, now comes roaring into the picture. 270 k's into turn one.
It's a really hard place to put a move on there. Russell Ingall trying hard though. Has a look down the inside, gets it done. Winterbottom buys in as well. Great stuff.
He said he wanted to enforce, and Russell Ingall has done so on Jason Bright.
Bounds.
Gets Winterbottom. So Ingall moves up to 7th.
Good racing.
Bright's 8th, Lowndes is 9th, Winterbottom's 10th.
Pretty wild, started to sweat a bit. Winterbottom. They all have to cover each other a little going into 9. Bright just moves over ever so gently now to cover a little bit of space there as well as they make the run up to 10-11. This is where the trouble was earlier between Steve Owen and Lee Holdsworth. It's very easy to jump off the road here. Margin's down to 0.2 of a second between Scaife and Whincup.
He held it at 0.4 for 2 laps, and that last lap, Jamie Whincup has closed the gap.
And those two have skipped well away from both the Kellys. They've got a really hefty margin now, so these two can just concentrate and argue on this battle. This is the exit of turn 2. In this long right-hander at 3. Oh, more trouble down at 2. This time it's Murphy and Jason Richards in dispute with Stevie Johnson in there as well.
There was contact there, contact between Johnson and Murphy. Nothing too sinister or nasty, but definitely contact.
Ingall's just skipped away slightly from Jason Bright and Craig Lowndes.
There's car 17 and 51. Positions 12 and 13. I reckon Jason Richards needs a good lie down after this race. Everybody's been taking a crack at him. The 15th position belongs to Dean Canto. That's where the points finish. Lowndes and Bright are still at it inside the top 10.
Ooh, that's not easy to do, and Todd climbs up now and takes a spot. Or am I looking at the wrong bloke? I'm looking at the wrong guy. It's Tander that's actually mixing it up here with Todd. Look at the amount of smoke on Rick's car.
Last lap, GT, last lap, patience, mate.
Well, Garth must have got Todd, and Todd's got him back.
Yeah.
That's what's happened there. It's Tander versus Todd Kelly for 4th and 5th. Younger brother Rick's ahead.
Oh, big moment there for Todd. The thing skips sideways in the loaded part of the corner, but he hangs on to his spot. And I understand there was some contact between these two in that little trade-off that we saw at the other end of the circuit. Remember, they got together at Winton.
Craig Lowndes is getting together all right with Mark Winterbottom, as close as you can get.
He's trying to get up the inside here at 5 and done. They're all over Winterbottom down there.
Stephen Johnson on the inside will take the position off Winterbottom. Been some great dicing in these little battle packs here. Nose to tail to the finish in the mad scramble for points. But out in front.
Great job, Scavey. Welcome back, mate. Great turnaround.
He's back. First race win of the year for Mark Scaife. Jamie Whincup
well done,
second.
Jamie. That was great. Well done.
Rick Kelly third. Todd Kelly in fourth. Garth Tanner and Stephen Richards make up the top six.
Well, it was wild towards the back end of the top 10 at the end as we take a look at the race winner Mark Scaife and the victorious Holden Racing team. Jamie Whincup second, Tom Walkinshaw there on the left with Lucas Stocking. Rick and Todd Kelly in third and fourth from Garth Tander, then Stevie Richards, Russell Ingle, Jason Bright, Craig Lowndes and Stevie Johnson. That was the way it all resolved in the end, with Winterbottom just outside the 10 and then Murphy. Jason Richards ended up back in 13th after all that.
So Mark Scaife is certainly back. By my reckoning, that's the first time he's won a race since round 7, 2006 at Oran Park. So it's been a long time coming, but it comes at the circuit where he dominated for a long, long time.
Worth noting that top 10 result for Stevie Johnson coming up from 21st.
Dean Canto held on to 15th position for a long slab of this race, but at the very death of it, Jason Bargwanna came in and pinched the last available points.
And just going back to the Jim Beam entry there of Stephen Johnson, remember they ran him longer than anybody else, and so they did actually make a good gain out of all that.
But Mark Scaife is certainly the story of race one. He took it from the word go from his teammate, held on to it, stretched his lead, and then saw off the battle at the end.
Might this be the round that he finally nails that 38th round win? He's off to the ideal start, but 2 races to come, and they're not going to be easy ones.
He's had more races here than any other driver in the field. More race wins too. That's his 9th race victory at Eastern Creek. It's a resume that reads pretty well. 5 overall wins. He's certainly back in a big way.
And did the fastest lap of the race, Mark Scaife, a 1:33.38.
Celebrations again for the Holden Racing team and for this man. Team Vodafone, the team boss Roland Dane congratulating young Jamie Whincup on second. Valuable points.